Hi, my name is Marin McCue, and I am here today to talk to you about breath work and your nervous system. As someone who has struggled with various mental health afflictions for most of my life, I got to a point where I realized I really need to understand how my mind and body works so that I can be a conscious navigator throughout life rather than constantly feeling like I'm in the passenger seat or that I don't have any control whatsoever. So over the last 10 years, I have been studying, experiencing, and practicing various techniques to really get a grip on how to take control of my mind and body. So in this short video, I want to give you some gifts in what has been really inspiring for me and hopefully give you some insight and potentially a deeper understanding of how powerful your body is and the innate ability you have to heal, restore, and regenerate when you cultivate the space to breathe. I invite you to take a moment to pause and get curious about this question. What is it to have the space to breathe? Perhaps you are noticing right now your mind is wandering, or maybe some excitement or anticipation in your body, maybe some tension, maybe a difficulty in feeling comfortable or being still, thinking about what's next. So just take a moment to notice what's happening for you in this moment. When you contemplate that question, what is it to have space to breathe? So I'm now going to lead you through about a 5-minute experience. So take a few moments to settle into a comfortable position. If you're already feeling comfortable, just get curious as to what it would take to get 5 or 10% more comfortable. It's reassuring any part of you that is feeling impatient or as if you don't have time for this. Just let that part of you know this will only be 5 minutes. And I guarantee you will have an insight or a sense of calm after this. So as you settle into a position of comfort, keep your eyes open and look away from the screen and gently move your eyes and perhaps your head and neck as well, slowly from one side of the room to the other. Really slow, noticing your breath, your posture. Just moving your eyes with this intention of noticing detail and the sensation of flow as you shift your gaze from side to side. Notice what it's like to feel your breath as you move your eyes. And when you're ready, you can hold your gaze at one point, whether it's across the room or a few feet in front of you. And no need to really zoom in. Keep a soft focus at one point. Again, being mindful of your breath. Just the simple act of paying attention to your breath often slows it down. Notice what it's like now to toggle your gaze from that one pointed focus into a more expanded perspective, as if you're taking in the entire room, like gazing at a sunset. You can call this your panoramic view. Not really holding any one thing in your gaze, it's the whole space. And you can keep your eyes open at this point if this is feeling really good for you. And if you're ready or curious to close your eyes, you can go ahead and do that. With your eyes open or closed, move your awareness to your breath. The gentle expansion of your inhale in your low belly, low ribs, low back, your pelvis. And the gentle contraction of your exhale. Each breath is an opportunity to notice some detail, to take that information into your next breath to see if you could breathe even slower, softer, deeper. Now, as you stay in connection with your breath, begin to become aware of your thoughts. And for a few moments here, allow your left hand to represent the past and your right hand to represent the future. So as you hold this open awareness, moving with your breath, paying attention to your thoughts. When you notice it's a thought about the past, squeeze your left hand into a fist gently and whisper internally, past. And then release your fist, move back to your breath. And if you notice a thought that's projecting into the future, just notice it. Create a fist with your right hand and whisper internally, future. And then release your fist and move back to your breath. And if you do notice that the thought is not really about the past or the projected future, then just label it as thinking. Give yourself 1 minute to label your thoughts and to settle into that space in between thoughts. Without getting into meaning, really analyzing patterns. Can you just notice, label, and then come back to your breath? Just a few more moments. Now release the task of labeling your thoughts. Just be with your breath. What does it feel like now to have space to breathe? Just take a moment to reflect on that experience, what you noticed, what you felt like before you began, and how you feel now. When you're ready, you can open your eyes if they were closed. And again, gaze around your space, feeling your breath, the gentle movement of your eyes. head and neck. And when you feel ready, you can bring your eyes back to the screen. So one of my favorite reminders to move into after an experience like this is what's possible when we truly understand how to breathe. Not only the mechanics, the anatomy, the functional, the rhythm, but also the chemistry. You know, what can shift so quickly when our breath rhythm changes and how that impacts our chemistry or vice versa, and how our breath impacts our psychology, what we perceive, how we feel, what we're able to notice, our ability to shift gears. There's so many possibilities when we really understand the breath. So according to Dr. Peter Litchfield, these are some of the really important pieces to understand that can result when we really understand our optimal breathing mechanics and chemistry. So we will experience improved physical performance, symptom abatement, improved immune system functioning, improved heart rate variability or our heart health, which is really just the notion of our heart increases on the inhale and decreases on the exhale. So having a high heart rate variability is synonymous with good health. We want to be able to have that flexibility where we feel a little bit of activation on the inhale, but every exhale is actually restoration. So also we will experience improved cognition. So your ability to remember things, to learn, to pay attention to what you choose to pay attention to, enhanced task performance, so better efficiency, successful management of emotions and stress. And for me, this is the huge one. As I mentioned, struggled with mental health for most of my life. So to be able to have a sense of stress resiliency and to really be able to be with emotions that can still be quite intense, yet I can be with them. I know how to breathe through them. I know how to listen to what's going on in my body versus, patterns and habits that for years were all about avoiding what I was feeling or masking it or numbing from what I was feeling. So really understanding how to breathe and how my nervous system works has completely shifted the way that I show up and can move through emotion and stress. We can also experience expanded consciousness. So we can learn to be more present for ourselves and in our environment. Improved self-awareness. So similar to what I was just expressing is this ability to notice what's going on, to notice patterns, to notice when you're kind of taken over by a part of you that might be expressing from a wound or a protective mechanism where something is a little bit uncomfortable. And so we counteract that by various ways of protecting ourselves, whether it's being aggressive, being overly happy, lots of different things. That's more into the psychology of the breathing. And then better overall personal health, right? So again, simply that example of the exhale being this moment, several moments of restoration in every breath. Right? We are bombarded with toxins in our environment, in our food, in relationships, in our habits. And if we're really good at regulating our own nervous system and honoring this rhythm of effort and surrender on the micro and the macro level, we are healing on a daily basis, right? So that's where resiliency really comes in. It's not about not feeling things or not being bothered or not having stress. It's tuning into these innate biological rhythms that actually support us in restoring and regenerating moment after moment so that we don't need to avoid anything. There's this strength and confidence that comes along with that because of this sense of true embodiment and trust in what we are capable of. So what do we all have in common? Well, a lot of things. And obviously there's a lot of differences as well. But one main thing is that we all have a stress response system. We all have a nervous system. And it is designed to activate the same way for all of us, regardless of what the stressor is. So what's really interesting about this is that this is happening at a very quick rate. As soon as there's a triggering stimulus, the movement into reaction is 0.5 seconds. Right? So we don't have a lot of time to notice and actually question, oh, is this something I need to be triggered about? Do I need to protect myself here? Am I safe? These are things that we can notice after the fact. But our nervous system, its job is to react before we could even think about whether it's appropriate or not. So ideally, this system, which is wise, adaptive, and so important, the system would engage to mobilize action when we're activated. And then immediately after, we would relax and shift into restoration and regeneration. So that's the ideal with our system. Now, what is this stress response? Well, chemically inside the body, it's a release of adrenaline and cortisol. And it's felt as agitation, tension, or for me, the way I often recognize it is just this felt sense of do something. Like, I need to do something. I need to react. And it comes with a cascade of sensations, thoughts, and actions. So we all are actually going to respond to this do something sensation differently. And it's going to change day to day, person to person. But this is what we all have in common, is it's the same type of reactions. We are either going to feel the impulse and stay put, where we are appeasing, maybe looking out for everybody else, not for ourselves, or pretending like everything's okay. We might override it, say, I don't want to feel this way. This isn't appropriate, so I'm just going to choose to show up this way. Or that could also come along with shutting down, feeling so overwhelmed that we actually just move into a shutdown response. Now, a second line of action is to move, to run away, or to fight, to move towards, which you may have heard as the fight or flight response. So I have broken this down to be a little bit more clear in these 5 modes of action. So when we are overwhelmed and under-resourced, we react in fear, coupled with an impulse to protect and defend. And this is all in an attempt to seek safety, to survive. So the intention is good. And why I love bringing that in is because that's how we find self-compassion. And it's not just about the impact of our reactions. We also want to be mindful of the intention. The intention is survival and protection, right? So when we can really see that and show ourselves compassion, we've created space so that we can actually heal what might be impaired in our subconscious judgment or reactions, so that we don't continually make the same impulsive move or think the same thoughts that we've thought in the past. So this is the same, these images here are showing basically the same thing I just said on the past slide. We've got the option to retreat, to run, or push or pull away, right? So we're retreating. We could move into fighting to protect, like getting bigger, moving in, moving towards. We can fawn and appease, which would include overriding or bypassing ourself to pretend, which is still trying to protect ourselves through appeasing or overriding. We can move into shutdown, where we numb or dissociate. And the last image here is, well, there's also the option to notice, to regulate ourselves, and to re-engage from a sense of safety. So this traffic light image represents the polyvagal theory, which basically says everything that we just walked through here, these different modes of reaction. Yet what the polyvagal theory helps us see is that all of these states are important, they're vital, they're integral. We just don't want to get stuck, right? So each one of these serves a purpose. And if we can feel it, notice it, right? As long as we're not actually being attacked in that moment, can I actually just pause and recognize how my body is responding? Meet it with my breath, right? Even notice how my breath has shifted. If I'm in a fight or flight, I might notice that my shoulders have lifted up. My breath has actually become a little bit shallow or quick because my body is preparing for action. And on the other end, if I move into fawning or shutting down, I might notice more of this sense of like just not breathing at all, or a really shallow, slow breath where I'm not even getting the energy I need, right? Because I'm moving into a play dead response, or I'm overriding what I'm feeling, and that takes a lot of numbing, right? Shutting down parts of me because I don't want to feel those right now, right? So I'll notice that my breath shifts based on the nervous system state that I'm in. And the more I practice noticing that, right, the quicker I am at being able to do something about it, to intervene, to meet myself where I'm at, to shift the way my breath is moving so that my body feels safe. And I can actually be with what's arising in a much different way than just reacting or needing to protect myself. So the rhythm of how we are breathing illuminates the correlation between your breath and your state of mind. So how you are breathing is also dictating what you are perceiving, experiencing in yourself, others, and in the world. So when we learn how to breathe deeply and rhythmically for a duration of 30 seconds or more, our brain synchronizes in a way that creates space for new perspectives, new insights, right? Where there's space, there's choice, there's possibility. We can then see different patterns of breathing actually elicit different experiences of self. So this is one way to think about when we're in a very rigid, tight, reactive, potentially chronically activated state. It's like the trigger happens, the reaction happens so quickly, there's no space, right? It's just one thing after another. Whether it's a reactive loop pattern I keep finding myself in, it's one thing to notice it and be aware of it, which is a huge step. But if we don't know how to cultivate space to actually expand the time of being in the trigger, noticing what happens in the body, being with it, that's when we actually build possibility for something different. So this is the image of what it can look like. We have the stimulus. We still have our survival reaction. That's going to happen, right? 0.5 of a second. It's quick. But as soon as we notice it, and the quicker we notice it, we cultivate space. We can use our eyes and our breath as two gateways into our nervous system, right? These areas of our body, our eyes and our respiratory diaphragm, they react as a part of our nervous system. So you might notice that when you're feeling agitated, whether it's just activated, you're kind of stressed out or anxious, you'll notice that your eyes actually narrow in, right? Whether it's a narrowing in physically on an object or your mind is narrowed in on one thought, right? Repeating it over and over and over again, right? Or you might even find you're squinting your eyes. It's hard to take in the whole scene, right? A bit of tunnel vision. And our breath, same thing. When we're feeling activated, it reacts. It starts to move differently based on what our body is perceiving in that moment. So again, when we can notice that and practice taking control of these areas of our body, we're reversing the communication, right? We're showing our body, no, I'm safe here. Like, wow, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling really agitated, but I can be with it. I can breathe. I can create space around it so that I can listen to it. I can learn from it. And I can ultimately reshape my nervous system so that I actually don't react. I don't have these same survival reactions that maybe I've had for most of my life, right? This is how we change our personality. This is how we change the way we show up in the world. So self-compassion, giving ourselves space, and really knowing how to do that is an important part of this, right? Because knowledge is for the brain, but experience is for the body. So we need to have actionable steps because it can be quite overwhelming when we're feeling something intense. So if you don't feel like you have tools, support, space, the know-how, of course, we're going to keep avoiding, right? We need to know how. We need to know the steps. So the first step is understanding the foundation of respiration. So this would include anatomy, like how does the body breathe? What parts are involved? Right? How does the body stop breathing well? Like, why would that happen? How is that adaptive? What does that look like? As well as how do we cultivate more safety? What do the practices look like that can be really simple and tangible for when I'm noticing little things in my nervous system? How do I meet it? Right. So at the end of this short presentation, I am going to guide you through a few really simple breath techniques that are a part of this foundation of respiration, of simply, how do I breathe to calm myself down? How do I breathe to energize myself? How do I breathe to cultivate focus, to be really present and tuned in? So a little bit alert, but not anxious or activated in the sense that I feel unsafe. And a really important part of the foundation as well is starting the conversation around why we are so different in terms of what feels good for breathing. So you may have had the experience where perhaps you were in a yoga class or working with a teacher or watching a video online, and you're invited to follow a specific protocol with a specific duration of breath. For example, box breathing is a common one. And you may have been invited to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Now that's actually not going to be facilitating focus or presence or calm for everybody, right? So knowing why that is, how not only the mechanics, but the chemistry and your life experience, what you believe, how your body tolerates different chemicals, specifically carbon dioxide. Right? These are important parts of understanding why breathing is actually more complex than just in and out. Now, the second part of really getting to know your breath is understanding the history of breath work and pranayama, specifically the yoga philosophy or the Indian philosophy of breathing. Now, what I love about teaching pranayama and breath work is to take out the nomenclature that is not really necessary for getting a good picture of the ancient wisdom that has been passed along for generations with the breath. I find it really inspiring to look back and see how this is something that's been taught for a long time. This understanding of really cultivating space to breathe and the different ways to breathe and how that can cultivate different states, support you in different things you're going through in your life. This is ancient wisdom, and it's so beautiful to have at least a little bit of understanding in that, so that hey, you're carrying on something that's been passed down for a very long time. So in this portion of the practice, I'd like to get way more into the pretty familiar, common used pranayama techniques to really get an understanding of why would we use certain techniques. And when we're bringing in the fact that everybody has a different tolerance to carbon dioxide and are not actually going to have the same kind of nervous system response as maybe some other people would, well, how can we teach and facilitate to a room full of people, right, while still guiding them through a technique without having it so fixed or so particular that some people are going to be going to feel left out or like something's wrong with them because they can't do it, right? So how do we be inclusive with this knowledge while still supporting and offering experiences that can be really profound? The physiology of breathing. This is where we start getting more into the depth of the nervous system, what it means to befriend your nervous system, how to map out your nervous system so that you feel like you have a relationship with it, where we're using words that actually make sense to you. So actually naming the nervous system states with, your own experience, your own words, so you feel a deeper connection, as well as the really simple techniques that we can use to support ourselves in being flexible in our nervous system, not only for when we need the big interventions to calm ourselves down or amp ourselves up, but also just little things we can be doing throughout the day to make sure that we're keeping that flexibility and that we're honoring each state of the nervous system as important and vital. So next we move into breath chemistry, getting more into how different receptors work in the body, not only the mechanical receptors, but the chemical receptors, and how our body reacts based on different levels of chemicals. So very specifically, we'll be focusing on carbon dioxide tolerance, the relationship between oxygen and carbon dioxide, and the protocols and practices that we can use to increase our tolerance to carbon dioxide, which would equate to an ability to hold your breath for longer without having a stress or a panic reaction, the ability to shift your breathing duration, whether you want it to be quicker or slower, and different positive stress exercises that we can use throughout the day that also support in that. So this really starts getting more into the rhythm of effort and surrender, and the understanding that stress is not bad. Right? My reminder I like to land on is too much of anything is no longer a good thing. So yeah, too much stress, that's not good. It's going to break down your mind and body in really detrimental ways. But a little bit of stress occasionally is really good, right? We want to be able to turn on the stress response and turn it off, so we have that flexibility of effort and surrender. So this portion of the program is we go into a lot of the Buteyko methods that are great for creating mild air hunger and really meeting yourself where you're at. So we'll be really clear at this point of what your current tolerance to carbon dioxide is, so that the plan, the practice is curated to where you're at versus just a general template of this is how you do it. Because really my goal with this is not only for you to be able to take the reins of your own nervous system, but to be able to share this with other people, whether you're a teacher or a parent or any role or capacity where you can share. We want to be able to have language and understanding where we're not giving people a prescription of what they need. We're actually giving them information and getting them excited to tune into what works for them, so that they can create their own roadmap and pathway forward that is really unique. So then we move into breath psychology. So part of this portion is going to be actually shifting the breath techniques into more conscious over breathing. We've built up the foundation at this point. You know how to regulate yourself. You know how to shift states. You know how to meet yourself where you're at. You've had practice in noticing intensity or different emotions and what it's like to actually turn towards them, to nurture them, to breathe in a way where you're cultivating space for whatever needs to move or arise, gets to do that. So as we move into breath psychology, we shift our breath practices again, to be this conscious over breathing. So you may have heard of Wim Hof. We'll begin with a bit of that. Conscious connected breathing, incorporating the breath holds and different regulation practices so that we really feel supported and stable as we start moving more into these caverns of our psyche. So we'll be getting more into talking about limiting beliefs, how those really deep core programs, how they come into our system, how they protected us at one point, and how that's shifted or continued throughout your life in ways that might not be serving you anymore. So this is where I really start bringing in more of the life coaching techniques different templates and inspiring reflection questions and processes, so that all of this breath work that we're continuing to practice is going to enhance and supplement the cognitive work, because we can't have one without the other. So lastly, this shifts into respire to inspire with the collective exhale. So the conscious over-breathing is now going to be shifted into longer sessions of over-breathing to meet material that comes to the surface now that you are so equipped and ready to meet yourself and to move through whatever arises. So as we are moving into more of those collective experiences together, I'll also be bringing in more of the personal development work at this point that will really support as you're moving through this somatic experiences of meeting core material. Well, we also want to have, again, the cognitive work, the templates, the methods, the questions, the practices, so that you can really get a deep understanding of knowledge is for the brain, but experience is for the body. So we want to really bridge the gap between mind and body at this point, so that you're not just aware and noticing things, your body is actually in it. There's spaciousness, you're moving through things, you're updating, you're upgrading your beliefs. And at the same time, for anybody who wants to be able to utilize this information to share with others, I'll also be including different templates of how to deliver one-on-one, how to facilitate workshops, what it is to be trauma-informed and diversity inclusive. And we'll also be using some of the yamas and niyamas, belief cycles. So a lot of the things that we've seen through the process, we're going to bring in with more intention to really dig in to look at how you could replicate it and how you can utilize it as a tool for you for the rest of your life. So let's do a little practice. What I'll invite you to do is settle into a position of comfort once again. And you can close your eyes if that feels good. Lengthen your spine. Relax your belly. Gently press your tongue to the roof of your mouth, really gently. Just feel that connection. Might feel good to place your hands on your belly or on your low ribs and find a little bit of pressure in on the inhale. Can really help get the diaphragm moving. Has to work a little bit harder for you to feel that 3D expansion in all directions. So we're going to begin by using this technique that is really about cultivating presence and clearing your mind. And while optimally or ideally, we're moving towards a balanced breath that's around 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. Don't be attached to those numbers. It's really just about a balanced breath that feels nourishing and sustainable for you. And another important piece of this is that it's not just about the duration, it's about the sensations and breathing slow. So breathing in more air is not actually long-term better for you. Right? So what is it like? You know, my favorite phrase is breathe in slow motion. And if your lungs are capable of, on each breath, they can fill several liters of air. But what we're working towards on each breath with this clear mind, present breath technique is to breathe less. Right? Not the same as a shallow breath. This is a whole body, strong, expansive, retractive breath. Breathing so soft. But you notice on each breath, it's like you're bringing in a little less. Just notice how you really have to pay attention to this. Each breath bringing in information, inspiration, an opportunity to adjust, slightly edit, smooth it out. Just a few more moments of just practicing that balanced breath. So now we're going to shift into a breath technique that is about energizing and up-regulating, right? So moving ourselves more into like a mobilized state. So really basic to begin here is, well, the inhale is more connected to the sympathetic nervous system, which is the mobilization, the fight or flight system when we're in a danger or a threat situation. But as just your nervous system, it's just activation, it's energy, it's mobilization. So when you emphasize the inhale, we are going to energize ourselves a little bit more. So one of the ways we can do this is inhale for 3, 4, 5, whatever feels good. So that slow expansion, and then hold at the top. Holding for around 4 or 5 seconds, relaxing around the fullness. And then exhale for around the same amount of time that you inhaled. Really slow, feel it, remove everything from your system. And then again, inhale for 3, 4, 5, feeling that expansion. Hold full, relax around the fullness. Just feel that energy, that inspiration in your system as you hold it, hug it. And then slowly release through your nose, as much as possible, in and out through the nose. So do that a couple more times. Taking your time, lengthening that inhale. If you really want to energize yourself, you can even make it more of a vigorous inhale. You might make some sound or be a little bit quicker. So you can play around here a little bit. Just really pay attention to how it affects you. Okay, so take a moment when you're ready to just relax back into balanced breath. Giving yourself a few moments. You might feel yourself come down a little bit. And we're going to shift now into a breath technique that is about calming down. So there's different interventions depending on, how activated you are. If you're feeling really stuck, you might need to use something a little bit more than this simple intervention, but this is what we'll start with. So it's the opposite, pretty much the opposite of what we just did. To calm down, we want to emphasize our exhale. The exhale is more connected to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is about rest and digest. Right? It's got other attributes to it, but we'll start simple. Right? So a simple way to calm yourself down is to allow that slow, spacious inhale. It's 4, 5, around that seconds. And then you're going to exhale for the same amount of time, plus 1 or 2 seconds. And so we're emphasizing the exhale by just lengthening it out. Really take your time with it. So continue like that. The slow, spacious, expansive inhale, feeling in your pelvis, your belly, your back, your low ribs. Right into the exhale, slow, soft, smooth. Maybe you hover a little bit at the bottom. Do it a few more times. Just notice what shifts as you breathe like that. It can be really helpful as well to make some sound on your exhale, whether that's humming to the bottom of your exhale, or the occasional open mouth with a sigh. And so that's one thing that I like to bring in is if you're going to breathe out through your mouth, make a sound. Right? So you're really feeling it. So when you're ready, we're going to shift into our last exercise here, which is about cultivating focus. So calm alertness, your ability to do deep work or be really present, right? Different than just relaxed and present. This is focused. So this is where we'll bring in the box breath. And really we'll start with just a balanced breath for you. So that could be 2 seconds in, 3 seconds in. Hold for the same amount of time, relax around the fullness. Same amount of time for the exhale, really let go, feel yourself release, and then hold empty for the same amount of time. Just play with that for a few rounds, counting in your mind. You could even use a visual behind your eyelids, drawing a square, or even moving your head or moving your hand, if that's going to help you focus and stay with it. For a few more rounds, just see if you can keep that sustainable, balanced 4-part breath. And when you feel ready, continue with the box breath, but be a little looser with your count. Okay, so you built up the map, the template. Notice what it's like now to continue following it through feeling it. Not fixed on the count, but just feeling for those moments of, okay, it's time to release. I can settle here and relax here. Oh, there's the impulse to breathe. See what it's like for a few rounds to just listen and feel for those 4 parts of your breath. And at the end of your next cycle, just breathe. There might still be a little pause in between each breath, or it could be fluid. Just notice what it feels like to have this space to breathe. When you're ready, open your eyes. Again, look around the space. Notice detail as you feel your breath. And then eyes back to the screen one final time. I want to thank you for joining me for this little video experience. If you have any questions, if you want to connect for a phone call, if you're curious to explore, see what I have on my social media or website, my information is here for you. And I would really love to connect. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything I can do to support, or to even just hear what your experience was like, any insights you have, any feedback you have. I would really appreciate hearing from you. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.